Chris, how are you?
What's going on?
Not much.
Hey, Randy. How you doing?
Are you doing that? I'm honored.
We're very good at it.
Yeah. Anytime.
No.
No, I was gonna say, we'll go ahead and fill it out, because you know you're gonna have an idea of the other. You can. And if you want to know what
Right? Good evening. We will call this meeting to order of the Elko County School District Board of Trustees. And we ask you to please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item 1.3 is approval of the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
Second, any discussion? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye and the agenda is approved. Prior to public comment, there are two NRS that we will be reading for public information. NRS 203.090. Every person who, without authority or law, shall willfully disturb any assembly or meeting not unlawful in its character shall be guilty of a misdemeanor. NRS 203.119. A person shall not commit any act in a public building which interferes with the peaceful conduct of activities normally carried on in the building. Any such person who refuses to leave the building upon request by the proper official is guilty of a misdemeanor. Item 1.4 is input from the public. This is a period devoted to comments by the general public, if any, and discussion of those comments. In the interest of privacy and due process, the public is requested to not raise personnel issues except in a legally noticed closed personnel session of the board. Comments are limited to 3 consecutive minutes. A speaker's time may not be reserved, divided, apportioned, or deferred. No action may be taken upon a matter raised under this item of the agenda until the matter itself has been included specifically on an agenda as an item upon which action will be taken. This is a non-action item. Mr. Zander, do we have anyone who signed up for public comment tonight?
Yes, I do.
All right, would you please read those names and have them come up in order?
Okay, Julie Stevenson.
I basically just had a question for the school board. Had the school board received a COVID grant awarding to the school in which it agreed to the terms and conditions that were required for them to go ahead and get the money? Terms and conditions including funding establishing to train and sustain public health, schools hiring individuals of school healthcare. And we would accept that metric data given to end the mandates has to be CDC approved, expansion of government-run healthcare through the schools, school blending with medical facilities being the new normal for our children, ending of local control, district being controlled by the HHS directives. If you're an elected representative, your control goes, the federal government takes over. You have no medical privacy anymore. All of that turns over to the government. No parental rights for any of the students' parents. And you've set up a framework to establish a centralized healthcare system. Now, did Elko County School Board get money and agree to this? Please answer the question.
Well, ma'am, I can tell you, I know the school district did receive some COVID funding. What assurances were required to be signed by on behalf of the district on that? I'm not certain. I can find that information out for you, but I don't know it off the top of my head.
You don't think that it's necessary for the parents of these children to have an idea of what you've agreed to in their names?
Well, we have that, those COVID numbers are included on our website. If you go on our website.
No, I'm talking about the giving up of the rights of the parents and the rights of the children, the rights of the parents to make medical decisions for themselves and their children when it has to do with taxes that we have paid to put these children into the schools of Elko County.
Ma'am, I'm not sure of any assurances that took rights away from parents or for the school district.
It's called the Taxpayer-Funded Federal COVID Grants Program to School under the ARP American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. That's what I'm talking about. This is from the federal government.
Well, what I'm telling you, I can look into it, but I don't know it off the top of my head right now.
Then can we please have it put on the agenda? We need an answer to this. Every parent in this room needs an answer to this question. Madam, would you please answer? Can it be put on the agenda, please?
We can look into that. Your time is up. Thank you.
Okay, Dan Stevenson.
I would prefer to make my comments at the end of the session if possible.
Okay. Jessica Murator.
Hello, my name is Jessica Muratori, and I've lived in Elko with my family for the past 9 years. My husband and I have 4 kids, 3 of which currently attend at Elko schools. Up until this past year, we've had a wonderful rapport with the school. Recently, however, we've been questioning our choice to trust you with their education, not only because of curriculum concerns around critical race theory or any such racial-based teachings, but also due to this board's refusal to stand up. Actions speak louder than words, and the fact that many adults today refuse to do the right thing and take a stand against immoral and ridiculous mandates is beyond me. It goes against everything I've strived to teach my children. And it's really telling when my 3, 7, 8, and 10-year-olds can see what should be done when grown adults cannot or will not. I can no longer sit by quietly at these meetings. I feel the need to add my voice in protest. As Albert Einstein states, the world will not be destroyed by those who do evil, but by those who watch them without doing anything. So I implore you to take to heart this message that I know you have heard before from numerous parents at prior meetings. Stand up. Why are you allowing a corrupt governor to dictate these immoral mandates and continue to do nothing for the community you should be serving? I'm disappointed and infuriated to see our words mean nothing to you. Now is the time for action. If this board continues to refuse to act and sits idly by, letting evil run rampant, I will have no choice but to pull my children from your care. I will no longer allow them to be pawns in your power-hungry game. Whatever money you were promised in exchange for following these mandates is not worth the price being paid by every child. You're here to serve the community and parents of Elko. If you refuse to take into account our wishes and concerns, why are you here? You have it backwards. We tell you what our children need, not the other way around. You claim to want to do the best for our children. Now is the time. Prove it. I leave you to ponder these words from Edmund Burke. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing.
Chris Johnson.
Yeah, so Chris Johnson, 123 Woods Court. So also chair of the Citizens for Elko County Schools. So we're working on the campaign for a yes vote for the bond election this December. So December 14th will be a special election for funding of capital repairs for school projects. So we just have a flyer here with that promoting that. So these dollars would be used for school repairs and expansions. This funding's been in place for the last 40 years for capital improvements for Elko County School District. A yes vote is for replacing modular classrooms. That's been a big concern of the community in replacing of modular classrooms, and we can continue to do that. This will be a reduction in property taxes. This new tax rate will be 25 cents less than what the current rate is. This is putting students first, and this is building a better future for Elko County. Community members and educators work together to create an environment that promotes learning and success for approximately 10,000 smart and energetic pre-kindergarten through 12th grade students. In studying of this, of what Elko County schools do, and it's amazing to me that the school district has that many students. That's very impressive. It's a very large school district. Again, a yes vote is for lower tax rate to save money. This will have the ability to have money before projects begin. We know that we can save money by having the project start earlier to avoid inflation costs. That's also been a big concern of projects in the past. The school district has also provided quality community recreational spaces. There's a lot of different entities that have really been able to grow and thrive because of facilities that have been built by Elko County schools for basketballs and other sports. Community image, community pride. I've grown up in this community. I was a former mayor of Elko, graduated from Elko High School, and just listening to my parents and generations ahead of me, they were very proud of Elko County schools and the image that it had across the state. So, and then strong schools, a strong school provides for a strong community. So it's so important this December that we make a decision to continually to fund capital projects for Elko County schools. And so we'll continue to work on the campaign. I just wanted to stop by during public comment, leave a couple of these and to just let you know what we're working on. And again, get ready for this December 14th for the vote. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Lisa Jackson.
So I just have some questions for you guys. This school district has accepted resignations from Mr. McEnany, who I've had issues with in the past. He resigned due to the fact that he's in a lawsuit for over $2 million in his involvement in the molestation of children in Wells. It has been brought forth with evidence that he knew about it and covered it up. And yet you guys hired him back as a principal of more adolescents to put our children at risk.
Ms. Jackson, this is a personnel issue. We ask you if you're going to speak of personnel to please request an opportunity to speak with Mr. Zander and speak with personnel in private. Thank you.
Cool.
You want to call my office? I want him on that.
Sure.
Sharon Labartz.
Hi, I'm Sharon Labartz, and I want to let you know, first, I am bipolar and have serious anxiety every time I enter this building. I started coming to these meetings because of what our government is doing to the mental health of the children of our nation. I do not want these children growing up and living in a flight or fight mode. The damage that mask mandates, school closings, and bouncing kids in and out due to COVID ensures exposes is going to be felt by these kids for the rest of their lives. What I have learned by coming to these meetings is our administrators are practicing good old boy club methods. Mr. Zander, the school board, share the same law firm. The law firm that the school board maintains told them it is legal to hire a consulting firm to fill the position. I'm waiting on a FOIA request for statutes and procedures. I'm still waiting. We are paying dues to agencies that are pushing agenda that taxpayers do not support, such as the Nevada Association of School Boards, which belongs to National Associations of School Boards. Those organizations support indoctrinating our children, but our school board members. It is time to look at the school districts like a business, and we need to ask, are we getting value for our dollars? The answer is we are 50th in the nation. So we are not having achieved value on our investment. So we need to have a conversation about these organizations and why we are paying for them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Misty Atkins.
So, Misty Atkins, like he said, I'm going to respond to things that you brought up at the last school board meeting and statements that you made at the last school board meeting on the YouTube video. When you said, quote, Whitaker's actions were taking place before McEnany became principal, end quote, that was an attempt to justify him not reporting to the proper authorities, and no justification for that is acceptable. The fact that you're attempting to justify that is disgraceful. You then said, quote, Chris McEnany had nothing to do with the lawsuit or settlement, end quote. Bold-faced lie.
Misty,
He brought these up.
This is a personnel issue, and if you wish to take that up, you may get a hold of Mr. Zander.
U.S. District
Personnel
Court,
issue.
right here, with Chris McEnany's name on it, where they paid out at minimum $2.5 million. Did you or did you not address these questions or these statements to what I said at the last school board meeting?
You're taking my responses out of context.
They're direct quotes.
No, okay.
These are direct quotes.
I'm just telling you. If you want
Then why don't you respond to my emails? I've asked you twice for a meeting.
I've asked you for exactly what we're going to meet about.
You haven't responded. Do you want to go through my emails? Because you haven't responded squat other than when would you like to meet? And I responded anytime after 4:30. And you haven't responded, period, after that. Well, why have you not responded to me to set up a meeting? Because I've tried, I've attempted.
You know, I tried to originally, and then you came back and said you couldn't meet till after 4.
No, that is not what happened. You said, when could we meet? And I said, I can meet anytime after 4:30, and then silence.
Well, to be honest with you, after the conversation we had the last meeting,
We have not had a conversation.
you didn't talk to me just like this 2 meetings ago.
That is not a conversation. That is a one-sided directed dialogue.
We schedule a meeting later in the week.
I don't know, can we? Are you going to respond? Are you actually going to do that? Then on to what one of the previous speakers was talking about. What are the implications? No metric. This is what you guys have obligated and taken away from us as parents. No metric data given to end mandates. CDC deleted mask phase out from guidance. Expansion of government-run healthcare programs into schools. You did this. Schools blend with medical facilities becomes the new normal for young ones. End of local control. District must follow unknown future HSS directives and guidance. Must. Your right of elected representation eroded by the loss of local control. No medical privacy, which data is to be collected, will be specified in the future. We don't know what privacy we've lost because that's to be specified in the future. Elimination of parents' rights through the expansion of school-based health programs.
Time is up. Thank you.
So these are some of the reports we have received. Adobe is not providing water a basic necessity, and kids are sharing water bottles and are drinking from the bathroom sink during a pandemic at that. An Adobe teacher was reported to your office for calling her students little bitches for not being able to breathe in masks and not allowing kids breaks for air. And you should know who that was. If it's not appropriate for me to say during a meeting, it sure as shit isn't appropriate to say to 8th graders.
If I have to ask you again, I'll ask you to leave. Use appropriate language.
HS was missing soap in the boys' bathrooms for multiple days a few weeks back, again, during a pandemic. Where did all the COVID money go? The money we repeatedly asked you what you were binding us to because you had to have that money, but no one would ever answer us. Well, Missy just answered you. You obligated us to comply with existing and all future unknown directives. Washoe County has withdrew their membership from the NSBA for a year, following suit of about 20 plus other states who have had all of their school boards withdraw as well. You telling us to take it up with the governor is a joke. It's you deferring responsibility because of cowardice. School boards all over the country are defying their governor mandates. You can choose not to. Maybe it's the 30 grand a month Sislac donating bad legal advice you're getting. You are making choices, and that forces us to take action. You are interviewing and deciding with zero public input who will be placed on the school board that makes decisions for our children. I personally emailed both you and Ira with very concerning info regarding an interviewee, especially after seeing who did not get interviewed. She sponsors a hate-filled Black Lives Matters Antifa support page and has been indoctrinating our kids with communities and schools for who knows how many years. She's an extreme left-wing liberal protester hosting not one, but 2 rallies on behalf of George Floyd here in Elko. She should never, ever be allowed in any capacity around making decisions for anyone's kids and made it through the interview process. How? She's an avid supporter of critical race theory, which we know because she came and spoke about it this summer for well over 3 minutes, which might seem trivial to some, but those who know that once that timer goes off, it doesn't matter how passionate you are or how important your point is, you're done talking, unless you're Nicole Bowers. And that sounds exactly like cherry picking to me.
Absolutely.
That's it, Teresa, other than for the gentleman who wants to talk at the end of the meeting.
That's all. Mr. Zander?
Yes, that is. That's it.
All right, we ask that everyone remember that your masks need to be pulled up if you're going to be in the meeting room. Thank you. All right, we have a couple of email public comments. Ira, would you like to start, please, with yours?
We can't hear anything in the building.
That's, I have them.
Oh, there
I
we go.
haven't got those emails. How do I get to them?
I believe Cassie emailed them to you today.
Okay, here we go. Okay, this is from Angela Robbins Adams. Members of the Elko County School Board, Teresa Dastrup and Ira Wines. I'm unable to be there in person today, but I feel it's time to say something. Better late than never. You cannot expect any logical person to believe that masks work when after 28 days of wearing them, the positive test rates went sky high, so the mask mandates was extended. Cut the crap and admit you are keeping our children in masks and taking away their identities for money. If this COVID-19 was as deadly as experts say it is, then why is the Elko High School taking away soap from the bathrooms? Seems that washing your hands is an important measure for mitigating disease and illness. Not soap dispensers. So I do know about the TikTok challenge. You guys took away soap during a pandemic. Finally, Jeff Zander, you are being paid 3 times from our district from taxpayers, pensions, contractor, and now superintendent. So listen closely. You work for the board and tell administrators to do their jobs. The board does not work for you. It works for the taxpayers. Worry about your administrators who are getting paid ridiculous amounts of money that aren't doing their jobs, such as letting teachers push propaganda in classrooms and push the vaccine on our kids. taking away soap and clean water, allowing teachers and other staff to call our children names and bully them. You, sir, need to fix the schools. Thank you for your time, Angela Robbins Adams. The second one I have I am a third generation Elko County educator, mother of a currently enrolled junior school leader and elementary teacher. The moment I am in training and unable to speak to you directly, I have attended many meetings and watched virtually because of the current climate in the boardroom. I stand with other teachers in this district and implore the audience, irrespective of their views on masking and vaccinations, to please give the board grace and respect in light of their decisions on appointing new board members. The board needs to be able to conduct business. This cannot happen if they have to adjourn meetings. Hard decisions will need to be made in the coming months, including approving a budget in December and hiring a new superintendent. We need a full board. We are trusting you, trustees Dastrup and Wines, to appoint the persons that will move Elko County forward. If anyone disagrees with your choices, the greatest freedom afforded to us is the right to a voice at the polls on election day. Educators in this district want, as former trustee Wines has said many times, to just get back to teaching. Let us set aside our differences for now and appoint a board ready to create goals for a brighter future for the children, educators, staff, and parents of Elko County. Thank you for your dedication to our schools during these times that are most challenging. I wish you patience, grace, and understanding. Michelle Munson. That's what I have. The two that I have.
Thank you, Ira. I will go ahead and read a few more. All right, this one says, hello, is there time, and if possible, to have my letter read during public comment? Hold on, it went away. Hello, my name is Jennifer Taylor, and I'm a parent and teacher in Carlin. I have a few questions and concerns regarding the school outbreak status guidelines and masks. Who exactly decides what is an outbreak and when it's over? What are the parameters? I know the DHHS has part to do with it, but I want specifics. It seems to me that there are no real definite parameters, and that the powers that be make decisions to change out of outbreak status when they feel like it. I am absolutely fed up with the mask requirements. They are hurting our children's mental health and suppressing their immune system. Don't give me lines saying it doesn't, because I see it with my own eyes as a teacher and as a parent. Anyone who is attributing any decrease in cases to masks is either naive or ignorant. At the exact same time, masks were required again. Cleaning protocols were also increased and improved again. I would say that this has more to do with things than masks. Also, anyone who thinks masks are dramatically cutting down on other illnesses are also ignorant of the fact that many parents are just getting better at hiding it when their kids are sick because everything is treated as COVID, which includes ridiculous measures. If the majority of kids were actually in danger of serious complications or dying from COVID, maybe these measures would be warranted, but they are not. Have any of you ever crunched the numbers yourselves? Kids ages 0 to 17 have a 99.0002% chance of surviving COVID. The emotional, social, and mental damage done by these masks and other restrictions are far worse for them. Suicide was the leading cause of death for kids 12 to 19 in 2020. For each of those who commit suicide, 100 to 200 have attempted, and even more have at least seriously thought about it. Isn't mental health important? Shouldn't there be at-risk assessments done to compare COVID effects on kids and the damage done by masks and restrictions to try and prevent COVID? Or are common sense and science like that being scoffed at the pushed aside? I could care less about what King Sisolak says in his mandates. Mandates are not law, and it's time for the emergency directives he's urging to end. We, the people of Nevada, need establishments and entities like you to help stand up for us. I'm so tired and broken hearted from seeing these kids suffer needlessly. Please, please help all of this. Thank you for your time. All right, this one is from Jeff Church. I do not know if the Elko School Board belongs to the NSBA, but if so, I urge you to cancel membership and at a minimum, pass a resolution opposed to their attacks on free speech, even if not a member, based on their domestic terrorist claims and attempt to influence the inappropriate use of the Patriot Act. Jeff Church. All right, this one comes from Catherine Kelly. Hello, my name is Catherine Kelly, and I am a local parent and educator. I speak for nobody else but myself. I want to bring a situation to your awareness that I have heard nothing about yet. As you in the audience know, when a student or staff member has been contact traced, they are required to self-isolate. Last year, when teachers were made to quarantine, they did not have to use their personal sick days. However, this year, that is not the case. Anytime that a teacher has to quarantine, these are removed from their sick days and they are also removed from their paychecks if there are no sick days remaining. I personally know of 2 teachers who've had to quarantine twice. That means that they have been paid for only about 14 days. This is absolutely unacceptable. Our teachers are working above and beyond what is in their contract. They are interacting with students, and if are forced to stay home and quarantine, should not have to use their personal leave days to do so. If this pattern continues, you will have teachers who will be forced to leave the field because they financially cannot afford to stay. You need to work with the school district, teachers union, and anyone else to rectify the situation. Thank you, Catherine Kelly. All right, this one comes from John L. Dahl. Dear Superintendent Jeff Zander and all school board members, thank you for taking the time to read my comments and thoughts. I feel that I need to let my voice be heard regarding the Elko County School District and school board. I want it to be known that I am in support of the board getting back to the work that it is created to do. I also support keeping local control over our district, so please let them stop fighting a battle they can't change and let them get back to their most important job and business, which is helping educate our kids. This fight that so many parents are currently making the school board fight is taking resources and time away from our kids. There are needs in my children's school, and I am positive in many others in the district, that are not being addressed or worked on because so much focus has to be given in hearing arguments, comments, and threats from so many. The issues that are actually affecting my children's education and learning environment cannot be heard. The school district supplies resources for my children that I, and I know many others, cannot provide at home. If you keep fighting this fight over and over, the district will flounder, and those resources that my children so desperately need will no longer function or exist. There are rules and laws that have to be followed, and we in this country get to decide where we stand regarding many issues. What makes this country so great is that we can disagree, but please take the fight to where it can be changed, not here. Not where it is taking time and resources away from our kids and doing more damage than it is doing good. Respectfully, John L. Dahl. All right, if that's the end of public comment, we will move on to the superintendent's report. Mr. Zander?
Okay, included in the superintendent's report, I have 2 partial day requests, a construction update and an enrollment update. The partial day requests are from elementary schools in Elko and in Spring Creek. This is all related to having the teachers work on disaggregation of data for parent-teacher conferences and getting ready for parent-teacher conferences. So those have been approved. The construction update is pretty straightforward. We're still having issues in regards to supply chain issues. The performing arts buildings have been delayed from October 15th till November 15th. Same thing with the Wells High School mechanical upgrade. Most of that's operational at this point in time, but part of that's sitting in a dock somewhere at LA. And so we're waiting for one more part to complete those projects. So most of them are very close, okay, but we're still having some supply chain issues. On the enrollment report that we have in there, we're showing as of today, 9,961 students. That's 318 students more than we had last year at this point in time. Julie will be augmenting the budget in December. And so the board will have some probably some discussions at that time in regards to what we built the budget on back in the spring versus sort of where we're at right now and what impact that might have on the budget. I also wanted to mention, we awarded an emergency bid in mid-October. The HVAC system, or the heating and cooling system for Jackpot, okay, has failed, and they redesigned that system over the summer. Unfortunately, it took more time to redesign that than they anticipated. And we were hoping that that project might come in at less than $100,000. So we put out 3 bids for that project. Unfortunately, the lowest bid came in at $152,000. So we have the discretion, and we don't do this very often, but we determined this to be an emergency with winter where it is, as cool as it's got now. We're going to go ahead and just award that bid, okay, to Snyder Mechanical. And the intent behind that is if we actually went to bid, that process would not be completed most likely till late January. And by the time we got that contract completed, we wouldn't need the new heat in the building by that point in time. So we have some modulars available that we're going to move some of the classrooms into, so they have some heat in the short term. We've awarded this contract to Snyder. They're going to start working on that in the next couple of days, I believe. And the intent's going to be is that we're going to have that elementary building heating system and everything up and operational by the end of December. So I just needed to let the board know that, okay, and make you aware of that award of an emergency bid. Last thing a couple of things I want to mention. We did go out of outbreak status at Spring Creek Middle School this week. And so we took off the mask mandates at Spring Creek Middle School. We're still maintaining the 7 layers of protection for those kids, although we're not having mandatory masks. In addition to that, in working with the state epidemiologist, it appears we might have a half a dozen more schools in the next week or two. If the trends stay the way they are with current COVID cases in our schools, we might have 4, 5, 6 more schools no longer be in outbreak status, okay, and allow us to raise the mask mandates in those schools. So I thought that was good news I wanted to share with the board. Lastly, we had some vandalism that took place at the new the Performing Arts building last week, and we're very happy to report the local law enforcement and our SROs worked expediently to actually find the kids that had done that. And so those students were arrested, okay? And that's been addressed. And then lastly, we had another threat of violence last night. And thank goodness for the local law enforcement, the FBI and our SROs, and they were able to identify who that student was, and that student's been arrested. So I just want to let the board know that. We did receive another threat today, and we found out through the Nevada Threat Assessment Program that was not a valid threat that's going on across the nation. It's just a trend. No schools were actually named in that. So anyways, we were lucky. So school's going to be open and operational as usual tomorrow. For those parents that are concerned about student safety and what's going on, if they choose to keep their kids at home, those absences will be excused, okay? So I just wanted to bring the board up to speed where we're at on that. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Zander. Are there any questions?
No.
All right. I'm just glad to see that we're moving out of outbreak status in some of our schools, and it looks like we've got a lot more to come. So that's great. That's great news. All right, we'll move on to item 3.1, review and possible approval of a resolution providing for the establishment of a special revenue fund within Elko County School District entitled Medicare Funds. This is for possible action.
Okay, so the next 3 items, okay, or 4 items, I believe, are all related to changes with the new pupil-centered funding plan and the accounting for pupil-centered funding plan. So as before, we had the Nevada plan that we provide per pupil funding for students, and then we have weighted funding outside of that for ELL, at-risk, special ed, and gifted students. With the pupil-centered funding plan, the intent was to account for all those monies within the general fund. And now after that's passed, and for accountability purposes, they're saying we want to account for those funds outside of the general fund, okay? In addition to that, on this particular agenda item, the first one on the Medicaid fund, is the other part of the pupil-centered funding plan is we can't commingle federal and state monies within special revenue grants, okay? Special revenue grants are, by definition, are those that have specified revenues for restricted purposes, okay? And so we currently have Medicaid funds within our state special ed fund, the way we've accounted for that for decades, okay? In the meantime, so we're changing that now. We're going to set up a separate federal Medicaid fund within the special revenue funds. And so that's what that agenda I'm asking for. is the establishment of a special revenue fund for the Medicaid monies that are currently being accounted for in the state special revenue funds. Does that make sense?
Yep, that makes sense. Any discussion from the board?
Is this kind of contradicting to what that the way it's supposed to be set up, where everything goes in a general fund and now
Yeah.
break everything out into separate funds?
Exactly. So that's sort of the idea behind the pupil-centered fund, is it addresses what's called horizontal equity and vertical equity. And vertical equity deals, horizontal equity is that every kid's allowed the same level of education, okay? Or appropriate education. Vertical funding is for those kids that are at risk or ELL or special ed or gifted, okay? That the weighted funding they're going to put in place is going to address those additional costs you have to address that different type of education, okay? And so the intent behind the pupil-centered funding plan, okay, is to put those weights in the general fund and have that money commingled with general fund monies and run all those expenditures through your general fund. The problem is trying to account for that separately and what those actual restricted monies for gifted and ELL at risk and special ed, okay? It's difficult to track that within the general fund. So what they've done now is that money is still going to come through the general fund, okay? But the money is going to be transferred to these special revenue funds where you can track those expenditures separately.
Okay.
Now, this first one is not one of the weighted fundings. This first one is just Medicare funds. And the intent is for Medicare funds, we want a separate federal special revenue fund for Medicare and keep it separated from those weighted special ed monies that are going to come out of the general fund. So this is just an accountability thing where we want a separate fund to account for the federal funds.
Okay. I move to provide a resolution for the establishment of a special revenue fund within the Elko County School District entitled Medicare Funds.
All right, second. Any other discussion or questions? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and that fund is approved. Item 3.2 is receipt, review, and possible approval of resolution providing for the establishment of a special revenue fund within Elko County School District entitled PCFP English Learner Fund.
So this fund, it was going to be set up to account for the pupil-centered funding plan, ELL expenditures, okay, for the next upcoming fiscal year. So like I said, that ELL money will be distributed through the per pupil allocations within the general fund, okay? But that allocation will be transferred to this ELL special revenue fund so we can track those expenditures separately.
I move to approve a resolution providing for the establishment of a special revenue fund within Elko County School District entitled PCFP English Learner Fund.
Thank you. Second, any other discussion or questions? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, chair votes aye as well, and that fund is also approved. Item 3.3 is receipt, review, and possible approval of resolution providing for the establishment of a special revenue fund within Elko County School District entitled PCFP At Risk Fund.
So this is exactly the same as the previous fund, except for it's going to be for at-risk monies versus ELL monies.
All right, any questions, Ira?
No. I move to approve a resolution providing for the establishment of a special revenue fund within Elko County School District entitled PCFP At Risk Fund.
All right, second. Any other questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well, and that fund is approved. Item 3.4 is receipt, review, and possible approval.
We lost you guys. We lost Teresa there for a minute.
All right. I apologize about that. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
I will just start over with this one. Item 3.4, receipt, review, and a possible approval of resolution providing for the establishment of a special revenue fund within Elko County School District entitled PCFP Gifted and Talented Fund.
So that's exactly the same as the previous two funds, but that will account for gifted and talented funding received through the people-centered funding plan.
I move to approve a resolution providing for the establishment of a special revenue fund within the Elko County School District entitled PCFP Gifted and Talented Fund.
All right, second. Any other questions or discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well, and that fund is approved. All right, we'll move on to item 3.5, possible appointment of various vacant seats of the Board of Trustees. All right, to begin this, we've had several times someone ask us how we went through the process of selecting candidates for interview. And since this is now agendized, I will give a brief overview on that. The process for selecting the candidates to interview was as follows. Ira and I individually received the application materials from each individual who applied. Without any discussion between the two of us, we individually submitted names that we wanted to have for interviews to our administrative assistant. And that's the process we went through. Ira, would you like to add anything to that?
No, it came up that how we picked the questions that we asked in the interviews, and both Teresa and I submitted questions we wanted to ask, and then every interviewee was asked the same questions in the same order.
All right, thank you for the clarification on that as well. All right, Ira, how would you like to move forward with this discussion?
Well, to start out with, I'd like to thank everybody that applied, and we had some good applicants. We've got tough decisions to make, and but we'll just move forward and start with District 1. I move to appoint Susan Neal to District 1.
All right, I will second that. Any discussion? All right, I just want to say I appreciate everyone who applied as well. I think we had a lot of great candidates, a lot of different points of view that we were able to hear as we went through the interview process. We appreciate the input that we received from the public. And I just feel that Susan's experience in education is a very valuable asset to the board right now. And that's why I would choose Susan Neal as well. Any other discussion?
No.
All right, all in favor of approving or appointing Susan Neal as the District 1 candidate, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well, and Susan Neal has been appointed for District 1. Let's move on to District 2. Any discussion there, Ira?
Oh, once again, there were some good candidates, and I move to appoint Joshua Byers to the District 2 seat.
All right, I second that. And any discussion?
No.
Okay, I will go ahead and just share a few points. I really appreciated all of the candidates in District 2 that applied. Again, we had some fantastic candidates, and I appreciate their time in coming to interview. I just like to say that I appreciate that Mr. Byers has attended every meeting since applying. He also showed up for the forum that was discussing the capital projects and the general obligation bond fund, which is really important for our district right now. So therefore, that's why I would be supporting Mr. Byers as well. But again, thank you to the other candidates. I think we had a great group for District 2. All right, we have a motion on the floor. There's no more discussion. All in favor of appointing Mr. Byers for District 2, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and Mr. Josh Byers is appointed for District 2. All right, we'll move on to District 3.
District 3, we had 2 really good candidates. It's a tough decision. And I moved to appoint Matt McCarty. This is District 3.
All right, and I will second that. Any other discussion or thoughts on that, Ira?
I know that the other candidate has applied before, and I just encourage her to, when an election comes up, put her name in the hat and run for that seat. She's a good candidate.
All right, I agree. Both of these candidates were, again, great candidates. Both had a lot to offer on the board, and like some of the other districts, I wish we could appoint both of them. Again, both just really great things to offer to the board and to the community. But I will be supporting Matt McCarty, as he has, again, been very involved ever since he applied and interviewed. I've seen him frequently at meetings and other things, and I appreciate that he has continued to express his interest by his presence. So that's why I will be supporting Mr. McCarty. All right, any other discussion? We have a motion on the floor. All in favor of appointing Matt McCarty as the District 3 representative, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and Mr. Matt McCarty is appointed as our District 3 representative. All right, we'll move on to District 5, where we had 2 candidates. Any discussion there?
Two good candidates, but at this time, I'd like to leave advertisement open for, see if we can get any more applications for District 5.
Okay, all right, thank you. Again, I think we had 2 good candidates there as well. And I will make a motion to appoint Anthony Hemmert as the District 5 representative. Is there a second? All right, seeing no second, right now we will leave District 5 open and ask that people in District 5 please apply for that seat, and we will move forward in that regard. We'll move on to District 6. Any discussion, Ira, on District 6?
Again, some good candidates. And I move to appoint Jeff Durham as the District 6 board member.
All right, thank you. And I will second that. Any discussion or thoughts?
It's good to have somebody from Wendover on the board. We haven't had anybody Wendover to represent on the board.
All right, thank you, Ira. And I too would agree that Mr. Durham is pretty excited about the community of Wendover. I'm pretty excited about serving the entire school district, and I would agree that having a representative from Wendover, our 3rd largest community in the district, would be greatly beneficial. I really appreciate the other candidates that applied from District 6 as well. Again, also some great candidates with a lot to offer, and we appreciate their continued contributions in whatever manner they may be to the district. So again, I will be also supporting Jeff Durham as the District 6 candidate. All right, any other discussion? All right, we have a motion on the floor. All in favor of appointing Jeff Durham as the District 6 candidate, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well, and Mr. Jeff Durham is appointed as the District 6 candidate. For those who have been appointed, we ask you to please make an appointment with the county clerk to be sworn in. And also, Ira, would you like to talk about the NASB conference and the training that will take place there and the dates, so that the candidates know about that and the training that they'll need to be part of?
Yep. I'm going to give that in a report, but I can talk to it right now. On the 11th, there's a training for board members in Tahoe at the and it's the start of the NASB, the Nevada Association of School Boards convention. And training starts at 9:30 in the morning, and it's going to go most of the day. It would be good training for new board members, old board members, any board members. And I talked to the executive director today, and she said to encourage you new board members to go, and if you contact Cassie, she can get you signed up for that.
All right, thank you. So again, those who have been appointed, we ask you to please make an appointment with the county clerk and also get a hold of Cassie Gray at the district office to get everything else moving forward. Just one other item on that I would like to address, simply because we've talked about training with the Nevada Association of School Boards. The National School Boards Association, NSBA, put out a press release a while back, and the Nevada Association of School Boards has said that they did not approve of that, and many other school boards across the country said the same. And NSBA has since written an apology and asked for that to be retracted, saying that the language was too strong, and we certainly value the input of parents and freedom of speech as well. So just to let everyone know that our state school board association is the Nevada Association of School Boards, NASB, is here to train and provide opportunities for trustees to learn about governance, learn about all the things that are involved with being a school board member. And so we're glad to be part of that association where we can receive the legal training that we're required to have, and also the support that we need as school boards. All right, anything else on that item, Ira?
Just to echo on that, we've got to be an NASB director. We've got a meeting next Wednesday to discuss how we're going to respond to the National Association of School Boards. And all of the directors in the state are pretty much in line with not agreeing with what the National Association of School Boards did. So we're having a meeting next week to discuss how we're going to move forward on that.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll move on to item 4.1, our consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second, any discussion? All in favor of approval of the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and the consent agenda is approved. Item 5.1 is a report from our NASB director. I think we maybe took some of your report, but go ahead, Ira, what else have you got?
Yep, that's it. We've got that meeting next week, and then the convention the following week after that, starting the 11th. The convention's the 12th and 13th, and that's what I have.
All right, thank you. So yeah, so the convention is the 11th through the 13th, and I'm just going to reiterate this for those who were just appointed. We would greatly appreciate your attendance at that. It's great training to help you to be a better school board member. All right, we'll move on to item 5.2, items from board members. Ira, anything there?
Well, it's unfortunate some of the people leave the meeting early, because I don't know if they would listen to this, but I would like them to hear it. About the job that Teresa and I have been doing for the last couple of months. It hasn't been easy, and we definitely haven't done it at our convenience. And I just want to reiterate that the number one goal that we have is keeping kids in a classroom with a teacher in front of them. And we have to navigate parents that don't agree with what we do. We have to navigate through teachers and administrators trying to do the best job they can do to keep kids in a classroom. And then we have to navigate politicians that want to mandate things that we have to do. And we wind up doing some things that we don't want to do. But we do it anyway because our number one goal is to keep kids in a classroom with a teacher in front of them, because we learned last year that virtual learning, and I know there were a lot of people worked hard to try to make that a success, but we learned that the best atmosphere for kids is in a classroom. And so it makes us do some things that we don't really want to do. And it would be good if we had support of the whole county to get through this mess that we're in with this pandemic. To point out some of the severity of what's going on in Elko County right now. I've listened to public comment for the last 6 months, and I've heard people advocate for appointed school boards. And I've also heard people say that we need to keep local control. Well, those two comments couldn't be more contradicting if you tried. If we move to an appointed school board forum, we lose all of our local control because it's not the locals that get to appoint that school board. Since when Brian Sandoval got elected governor, he took over the State Board of Education. And every legislative session since then, there's been a bill introduced to move to appointed school boards in Washoe and Clark County. And the smoke and mirrors behind that is that's what their argument is in their debate, that it's to do it in Washoe and Clark County, but there's in the Nevada Constitution that if you do something to one school district, you have to do it to them all. If it's good for one, it's good for all. And so if it does get passed in the legislative session, it's not just for Washoe and Clark County, it's for the entire state. And you would absolutely lose local control there. And I promise the next legislative session, there's going to be a bill introduced to move to appointed school boards. And there's a lot of people in the state of Nevada right now watching what's going on in Elko County. And this is going to be the focal point of their debate, is what is happening. We all need to work together on this instead of back and forth, fighting back and forth over it. Sometimes we've got to do things we don't want to do to get to the end, but Teresa and I have had a goal this entire time, and we're doing what we can to achieve that goal. And it's disappointing that the parents of Elko County are playing right into the governor's hand over this appointed school board deal. And it's disappointing that that's what we've come to, but that's where we're at, and we're gonna work our way through this thing. That's it.
All right, Ira, thank you. I would echo your sentiments that, I hope we can work together and come to a consensus and stop bickering over things and focus on kids being in the classroom and not give the governor or the legislature or anyone else any ammunition as far as appointing boards instead of electing boards. So also, I just want to talk about how I'm glad our students are able to participate in activities and athletics this year. It was a challenge last year for many of our students to be online and then also have their activities limited. And I know there are many who have concerns over the masks, but I will tell you, if you talk to a lot of students, they will say, I would rather wear the mask than not be in the classroom and not be able to participate in my activities. And so with that, I just say good luck to all of our students, athletes, clubs, whatever they're involved in, and hope that they are able to enjoy those and continue to have a great year. And as I said earlier in the meeting, I'm glad to see that our numbers are going down as far as COVID goes, and we're able to put the choice back in the hands of students again as to whether or not they're going to wear a mask. But I will tell you, some students will continue to wear masks as they feel like that's the way for them to stay in school and be able to continue to participate in their activities. But again, good luck to the students participating in activities, whether it's national competitions like FFA this week, local and state competitions with athletics and different activities that are going on, and we're glad our students are able to participate. We'll move on to item 6.1, approval of the accounts payable.
I move to approve the accounts payable.
All right, I second that, and I will also disclose that I have a family member who has an employer who is listed on the accounts payable. Any questions or discussion on the accounts payable? All right. All in favor of approving the accounts payable, please say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well, and the accounts payable are approved. All right, we'll move to item 7.1, a final opportunity for public comment. Mr. Zander.
Teresa, I have a request from Dan Stevens.
Thank you. I want to thank you very much for the opportunity to come in front of you. I want to say that I appreciate the work that you guys have done, Teresa, you and Ira. And though I will probably disagree with you continually, that doesn't mean that I don't recognize how much trouble you guys have gone to here. Right now, one of the reasons I wanted to be left till last, if possible, is to address the new appointees. I think there's some things that they should be aware of. First of all, I want to congratulate them as being part of the first non-representative board we've ever had in Elko County. This word appoint is no good to hear, whether it was voiced by Mr. Sisolak or voiced by you guys. So appoint is not the way to run things. We have non-representation on the majority of our board. I would also strongly encourage the new board members to research the Nevada revised statutes. And I will start with NRS 414-060-070. If you think that Sisolak doesn't have control over everything you do, then you got another thing coming, because those two NRS statutes put you at serious risk, folks, and I mean it. And we have to stop that somehow or another. Finally, I am very encouraged to hear that we have some schools that may be able to step away from this silly mask mandate that we've had placed on us. But I'm very concerned because we still continue to use the stupid PCR test, that we are misdiagnosing people continually. They're not COVID positive in the majority of cases. What you're diagnosing is the cold or a common flu, and that's all you guys have in front of you. And yet we will send these kids home and pretend they have COVID, and wherein they could have had something even more serious. And whether they get a negative test doesn't mean anything either, because that just means you're missing something. Because either direction, the whole testing regime is messed up. But you guys persist in continuing with this process. So, though I'm glad Mr. Zander reported that we have one school and other schools coming out of this, I have no comfort, because I'm sure they'll be right back in, because we'll continue to use these silly PCR tests. And here we are again. And it's all being done to control us.
Time, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, is there anyone else who wishes to make a comment? All right, I do have a comment in email form. This is from Jamie Calton. My name is Jamie, and I am a parent, volunteer, and part of the school in Wells. At each meeting and in between, we keep hearing "my rights" in quotes, my child's rights, and "don't threaten my child." I want to start with the basic definition of rights. Rights are legal, social, or ethical principles of freedom or entitlement. That is, rights are the fundamental normative rules about what is allowed of people or owed to people according to some legal system, social convention, or ethical theory. Children have no rights except the right to food in their belly, a roof over their head, clothes on their body, and access to an education. None of these, quote, rights are being violated or denied by the schools. They are providing access to free meals and an education. The manner in which that education is afforded your child is your choice. I'm going to say that again. The manner in which that education is afforded to your child is your choice. You can homeschool, you can go virtual or in person. If you and your child choose in person, then you choose to follow any and all rules set forth within those walls. Whether you agree or not is also your choice, but once you send your child into the building, you must follow their rules. I do not like masks. I think they should be a choice, but I want my children in school, and as such, they will wear a mask because it is a rule. My oldest daughter is attending college and they require masks, vaccinated or not. And those not vaccinated will have a weekly test done at their expense to ensure the staff and student body stay safe and in class. This is no different. You have a choice. Make your choice and leave it at that. Do not attack the administration, the school board, or others with differing opinions. All you're doing is disrespecting one another and teaching your kids that it is okay to be disrespectful to those they don't agree with. Even worse, some are actively encouraging their kids to disrespect admin and teachers. It has to stop. This is not a playground, and he who yells loudest can go home because frankly, it is getting old. Thank you, Jamie Calton. All right, is there anyone else who wishes to make a public comment? All right, before adjournment, I just want to say thank you for those who attended in person. Thank you to those who attended virtually. And we appreciate the presence of our local law enforcement and the opportunity to carry on the business of the district this evening so that we can move forward and hopefully get back to the business of taking care of kids. All right, that being said, we'll move on to item 8.1, adjournment of the meeting. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you again for attending.